June 1967. The sun rises over the endless maze of waterways in the Mekong Delta, casting a golden glow on the dense mangroves and shimmering rice paddies. From the horizon emerges the Untold County, a sturdy vessel that has traveled thousands of miles from the western shores of the United States, carrying a crew of 178 men into one of the most challenging and unpredictable theaters of the Vietnam War. To the untrained eye, the Delta might seem peaceful, a place of quiet rivers and humble villages, but for those aboard this ship, every bend in the water could conceal danger, and every shadow could hide the enemy. As the Untold County approaches the mouth of the Cochin River, the men on deck prepare for a reality that is both exhilarating and terrifying. They are about to leave the comfort and relative safety of their ship and venture into shallow, narrow canals where the Viet Cong have long moved with impunity. These rivers are not just strategic routes, they are lifelines for local communities, carrying crops, water, and commerce, but they are also highways for weapons, supplies, and enemy fighters. Every day will be a delicate balance between safeguarding the locals and confronting a foe who knows the terrain better than anyone. The mission ahead is clear: patrol, observe, and engage when necessary. But clarity does not diminish risk. Patrol boats will skim through muddy waters, navigating treacherous sandbars and hidden shoals, while helicopters hover overhead, ready to provide support at a moment's notice. The Viet Cong are masters of guerrilla tactics. They strike from the shadows, blend in with villagers, and set ambushes that test every ounce of skill and courage of the sailors. One misstep could mean disaster. Yet the men know that their presence is vital to securing the rivers and protecting those who depend on them. Life aboard the Untold County is a mixture of routine and tension. Reveal sounds, and the crew lines up for breakfast, sharing moments of camaraderie before stepping into a world where danger is constant. Equipment must be maintained, weapons checked, and boats readied for patrols that will stretch for miles under the blazing sun or through sudden torrential rain. Yet amid the stress and strain, there is purpose. Corpsmen tend to the sick and injured villagers, building trust and providing hope in communities caught in the crossfire of a war they never asked for. This is a story of resilience, of courage tested on every river bend, and of men facing uncertainty with steadfast determination. The Untold County and its crew are not just patrolling waterways. They are shaping the course of lives, missions, and history itself. Every day is a new chapter, every patrol a testament to endurance and vigilance. If you enjoy diving into the untold stories of history and want to follow the extraordinary experiences of those who served in extraordinary circumstances, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next chapter in this incredible journey through the rivers of the Vietnam War. As dawn breaks over the Mekong Delta, the patrol boats slip silently from the Untold County, cutting through the mist that clings to the water like a protective veil, yet offering no real protection from the dangers that await. The diesel engines hum a low, steady tune, blending with the rhythmic splash of water against the hulls, a sound that becomes both familiar and haunting to the men aboard. Their mission is clear yet far from simple: disrupt Viet Cong operations, secure the waterways, and prevent the enemy from using these vital rivers to transport weapons, supplies, or influence over local populations. Every twist of the canal, every turn in the river, presents a new challenge, a potential trap laid by an enemy who knows the land and its secrets intimately, and who uses that knowledge to their advantage in ways that make even the most seasoned sailors hold their breath. The canals of the Mekong Delta are deceptively serene, winding through dense mangroves and past small villages where life continues with a quiet persistence, almost oblivious to the conflict threading through the waters around them. Children splash in the shallows, fishermen cast their nets, and farmers guide their sampans laden with rice toward the markets. Yet beneath this surface of everyday life lies a shadowed network of enemy activity. The Viet Cong move with patience and precision, hiding weapons beneath cargo, camouflaging their positions along riverbanks, and setting ambushes that can strike without warning. The sailors aboard the patrol boats have learned through hard experience that the ordinary often masks the extraordinary, that a seemingly empty boat might carry hidden rifles or explosives, and that every face along the water could hold secrets vital to survival. Helicopters hover above, their rotors slicing through the humid air, scanning the banks for any movement that might betray enemy presence. From this vantage point, patterns emerge: an unusual gathering of villagers at an isolated bend, smoke rising from a distant hut, a boat taking an unexpected detour. These subtle indicators are the clues that the patrols must read, deciphering a living puzzle that shifts daily, hourly, sometimes minute by minute. The synergy between air and water units is crucial, a delicate choreography where timing, observation, and rapid decision-making can mean the difference between a successful patrol and a deadly ambush. Coordination is everything. Each radio call, each signal from above or below, threads together the strategy that allows these men to press forward into hostile territory, while protecting not only themselves, but the people who rely on the rivers for their daily lives. The work is grueling, physically and mentally. Patrols can extend for 16 to 18 hours a day, and the men quickly learn to measure time not by the rising and setting of the sun, but by the countless miles they traverse on winding waterways. Each patrol is a test of endurance, a mix of tense observation, rapid action, and quiet moments of reflection. In these stretches of river, the lines between duty and danger blur. The patrols are simultaneously guardians and hunters, shield and spear, maintaining the delicate balance between security and engagement. The ever-present threat of ambush keeps every sailor alert, fingers brushing against weapons, eyes scanning for the subtle movements that might reveal a hidden enemy position. Yet in these tense moments, there is also a profound awareness of the responsibility they bear, a recognition that their vigilance directly protects the lives of villagers who might otherwise be vulnerable to caution, extortion, or worse. Even in moments of pause, there is no true respite. Equipment must be maintained, weapons checked, and boats readied for the unpredictable turns the day might bring. Corpsmen provide medical care not only to their own men but also to the villagers they encounter, treating injuries and illnesses that the local healthcare infrastructure cannot address, creating bonds of trust and demonstrating that their presence, while militarily strategic, carries a humanitarian purpose as well. Every patrol becomes a lesson in observation, empathy, and strategy, where understanding the people and the landscape is just as important as understanding the enemy. Through these long hours on the water, patterns of enemy activity emerge, hidden catches are discovered, movements intercepted, and supply routes disrupted. A patrol boat might force a sampan to stop, only to reveal contraband hidden beneath rice sacks, while a helicopter team above guides the boats past concealed snipers along the banks. Each success is measured not in headlines or medals but in the small victories. A shipment of weapons denied to the Viet Cong, a village that can trade safely along the river, a child who sees the patrols as protectors rather than intruders. The cumulative effect of these actions ripples through the delta, slowly but decisively shaping the strategic landscape and tipping the balance towards security and stability. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows over the water, the patrols return to the Harnett County, weary but alert, their minds replaying every detail, every movement, every decision made along the rivers that day. They have disrupted enemy operations, safeguarded critical waterways, and prevented vital supplies from reaching hostile forces. But they have also strengthened ties with the local population and demonstrated that vigilance, courage, and persistence are the true tools of influence in a landscape as complex as the Mekong Delta. It is a mission that tests every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of resolve. A mission where the stakes are measured not only in tactical success, but in the lives and livelihoods of those who call these rivers home. The Mekong Delta is a labyrinth of rivers, canals, and hidden passages, a place where the beauty of nature masks the deadly complexity beneath. As the Ushanet County and its patrol boats glide into the heart of this watery maze, the men aboard feel the weight of every decision, the precarious balance between progress and peril. The rivers, so vital to the livelihood of the Vietnamese people, offer sustenance, transport, and connection, yet they are treacherous in ways that cannot be learned from charts or manuals alone. Mud banks shift with the currents, sandbars unexpectedly beneath the surface, and mangroves twist along the shorelines, concealing roots, snags, and, more dangerously, enemy positions. Every turn demands careful navigation, every stretch of water a test of skill, patience, and intuition. For those who patrol these waterways, the Delta is both a battlefield and a classroom, teaching lessons in vigilance and survival with every passing hour. From above, the Delta appears almost serene, a tapestry of green dotted with villages and rice paddies, the sun reflecting off slow-moving rivers like scattered jewels. Yet those on the water know the illusion of safety is just that, an illusion. Beneath the surface lies mud thick enough to trap a vessel if misjudged. And beneath the banks, the Viet Cong have learned to use nature as their ally. Hidden pits, camouflaged bunkers, and concealed firing positions turn the landscape into an extension of their guerrilla strategy, where the terrain itself becomes a weapon. The mangroves, dense and seemingly impenetrable, form a living wall behind which enemy combatants can watch, wait, and strike with devastating precision. Sailors quickly learn that the environment is as much an opponent as the enemy they face, and every patrol requires a constant dance between maneuvering the boats safely and anticipating unseen threats. Navigating these waterways is far from a routine task. The men must read the water as one might read a living, breathing document, noting the slight discolorations that indicate shifting mud, the subtle eddies that signal an unseen sandbar, or the unnatural stillness of a stretch of river that might hint at ambush. Knowledge of the Delta's rhythms, tides, currents, and seasonal floods becomes as crucial as proficiency with a weapon. Each patrol is a test of awareness, demanding the sailor's full attention. For even a moment's distraction can lead to grounding, damage to the vessel, or exposure to enemy fire. The stakes are high. The Delta does not forgive mistakes, and the consequences of a single miscalculation can be catastrophic for both the patrol and the civilians who rely on these waters. The Viet Cong exploit these natural hazards with a cunning born of intimate familiarity with the land. They move swiftly through narrow channels that are difficult to access, using small, inconspicuous sampans to transport weapons, food, and intelligence. Patrol boats, larger and heavier, must slow down to avoid running aground, becoming vulnerable targets for concealed gunmen or hidden explosives along the banks. Every patrol becomes a game of strategy and counter-strategy, where understanding the river's character is as important as knowing the enemy's tactics. Sailors learn to anticipate traps, to spot anomalies in the water's surface or irregular movements on shore, and to respond with calm precision under the constant pressure of potential danger. The Delta is not merely a physical challenge but also a mental one. Hours stretch into days, and the relentless complexity of navigation, combined with the ever-present threat of ambush, takes a toll on even the most experienced men. Yet amid the tension, There is a rhythm to life on the rivers. The patrols develop routines that blend discipline with improvisation, learning when to move cautiously and when decisive action is necessary. They observe local fishermen, noting the patterns of daily life that may indicate areas of interest or concern. Interaction with villagers provides vital intelligence, but it must be handled delicately. Misreading a situation could escalate into unnecessary confrontation. Trust and observation go hand in hand, as every detail, from the smallest ripple in the water to the behavior of people along the banks, may carry meaning. Technology and training are essential, but in the delta, they are only part of the equation. It is the human element, the keen eyes, the quick thinking, the disciplined instincts that ultimately allow the patrols to navigate safely and respond effectively to threats. Sailors rely on each other, coordinating movements between boats and helicopters, sharing observations and decisions to create a network of vigilance that stretches across the waterways. Every patrol is a collective effort, a blend of strategy, skill, and courage, as men move through an environment that constantly tests their resolve and ingenuity. Even during moments of apparent calm, the danger remains tangible. Hidden explosives, camouflaged positions, and the unpredictable nature of the terrain mean that no stretch of water can be taken for granted. Each mile traveled demands constant attention, each maneuver executed with deliberate care. The rivers themselves seem alive, a living obstacle course shaped by both nature and human ingenuity, requiring those who traverse them to remain perpetually alert. Yet amid the danger, there is also the quiet satisfaction of mastery, the sense that understanding and respecting the river is itself a form of power. The treacherous waters of the Mekong Delta shape the patrols in profound ways. They instill discipline, sharpen instincts, and test endurance, demanding both physical skill and mental fortitude. For the men aboard the Ushanik County and their patrol boats, the Delta is more than a theater of war. It is a teacher, a constant reminder that survival depends on understanding the land as much as the enemy, on navigating with patience as much as with courage, and on respecting the waterways that sustain life even as they conceal danger. These rivers are both lifeline and battlefield, shaping the story of those who dare to patrol them, and leaving an indelible mark on history itself. The Mekong Delta is a world of shadows, where danger lurks not only in the twisting waterways, but in the very faces of those who inhabit the villages along its banks. For the patrol crews of the Ushanik County, understanding this reality is crucial. For the Viet Cong have mastered the art of blending seamlessly into the everyday life of the Delta. They do not wear uniforms or march openly. Instead, they move silently among farmers, fishermen, and children, their black clothing indistinguishable from that of ordinary peasants. Their presence a hidden thread in the tapestry of civilian life. Every interaction along the river carries uncertainty. Every approach to a sampan or small boat a test of observation and intuition. For even the most ordinary-looking vessels may conceal weapons, explosives, or enemy fighters ready to strike without warning. The ambush is an ever-present threat, waiting patiently in concealed bunkers, hidden trenches, or beneath the dense mangroves lining the rivers. The Viet Cong understand the geography of the Delta better than anyone, using its natural features to their advantage. Sandbars, mud banks, and narrow channels are not only obstacles for patrol boats, but traps waiting to be sprung, forcing the crew to move cautiously, to read the subtle signs in the water, and to anticipate danger with every turn of the vessel. One miscalculation, one overlooked ripple in the water, could bring a hidden rifle or grenade into play, transforming a routine patrol into a fight for survival. This environment demands more than training. It demands a constant alertness that can never be fully relaxed. Attention that stretches across every hour of the day and night. Observation becomes both science and art. Patrol crews study the behavior of villagers, noting patterns that might indicate the presence of an enemy operative. A boat carrying unusual load of rice, a group of men gathering at an isolated bend, or children playing near a strategic channel, all these details must be interpreted with care. For they could be ordinary, or they could be deliberate attempts to lure the patrol into a trap. Listening, watching, and questioning become daily rituals, each action carrying weight, each decision potentially altering the outcome of the patrol. Over time, the men develop an almost instinctive sense of when something is amiss, an intuition honed through repeated exposure to the subtle signals of guerrilla tactics. Communication and coordination are vital. Patrol boats move in tandem, their crews sharing observations through radios, hand signals, and practiced routines. Helicopters hover above, scanning the banks for movement, ready to provide support or engage if an ambush is detected. Yet even technology has its limits. The Viet Cong exploit every gap, every blind, and every hesitation. A sudden shot from a concealed position, a flash of movement among the mangroves, a smoke signal used to mark a location. These are the moments that test courage and decision-making under pressure. The crews quickly learn that survival depends on a combination of vigilance, quick thinking, and unwavering discipline. For the enemy is as patient as they are cunning, waiting for the exact moment when the patrol is most vulnerable. The psychology of the patrol is tested as much as the physical environment. Every day brings the need to distinguish friend from foe, to interpret intentions without full information, and to make split-second decisions that can have life or death consequences. The sailors understand that even a seemingly innocuous encounter might carry hidden peril, and they carry this awareness through every mile of river patrolled. The presence of civilians complicates matters further. Protecting them while engaging the enemy requires a delicate balance of force and restraint, strategy and sensitivity. Mistakes can erode trust, endanger villages, and compromise missions, adding layers of responsibility to every patrol. The Viet Cong are masters of improvisation, using hidden weapons and clever tactics that turn the environment itself into an ally. They exploit narrow channels, shallow waters, and dense foliage, forcing patrol boats to slow down, navigate cautiously, and remain exposed for longer periods. Improvised explosives may be concealed along banks, hidden in seemingly abandoned boats, or embedded in everyday objects, turning ordinary scenes into potential death traps. Yet the sailors' training and experience allow them to anticipate these threats, to search thoroughly, and to maintain a level of awareness that mitigates risk, even in the most challenging conditions. Every patrol becomes a careful negotiation between observation and action. The men learn to read the nuances of movement and sound, to anticipate the enemy's intentions, and to respond with a measured combination of courage and strategy. Encounters, when they occur, are often brief but intense, demanding rapid coordination between boats and air support. In the heat of the moment, years of training, countless drills, and the hard-won instincts of seasoned sailors converge, shaping responses that can save lives and secure critical waterways. Amid the tension, there is also an underlying purpose that drives these men forward. Their vigilance protects not only themselves but the local population, ensuring that commerce, transport, and daily life can continue despite the ever-present threat of guerrilla action. Corpsmen provide medical care to villagers, patrols help maintain secure passage for goods, and the presence of U.S. forces serves as both deterrent and reassurance. Every engagement, every careful maneuver, reinforces the broader mission to maintain security, disrupt enemy operations, and stabilize a region caught in the relentless grip of war. For the patrol crews, the Delta is a constant teacher, showing that warfare in this environment is as much about observation, patience, and discernment as it is about firepower. The Viet Cong's ability to hide, ambush, and blend with civilians forces an unending cycle of vigilance, assessment, and adaptation. Each day on the river strengthens skills, tests resolve, and highlights the extraordinary courage required to navigate these waters. These men face a foe who is elusive and patient, yet through endurance, strategy, and relentless attention to detail, they uphold their mission, protect the people, and leave a legacy of perseverance in one of the most challenging arenas of the Vietnam War. Life aboard the patrol boats of the Us County was an unrelenting test of endurance, skill, and resilience, a rhythm dictated by the relentless demands of river warfare. From the first moments of dawn, when the sun barely kissed the horizon, men were already on duty, performing tasks that required both precision and stamina. The river, with its hidden dangers and shifting currents, allowed no pause, and every hour spent on patrol was a combination of vigilance and labor. Sailors quickly learned that success depended not only on navigating the waterways safely, but also on mastering the continuous cycle of maintenance, readiness, and adaptation that defined life aboard a floating outpost far from home. The patrol boat itself was a marvel of design but a challenge in daily life. Fiberglass hulls and small cabins offered little comfort, and the close quarters demanded cooperation and patience among the crew. Every piece of equipment, from engines to weapons, required constant attention. Neglect could mean disaster. Diesel engines had to be monitored, lubricated, and adjusted, every system inspected, every component tested. Even the smallest malfunction could leave a boat stranded in a narrow channel, exposed to both natural hazards and enemy fire. The men quickly learned to anticipate problems before they arose, developing routines that balanced preventive care with the demands of an ongoing mission. It was a delicate dance of timing and effort, where efficiency was not just appreciated, it was essential to survival. Physical labor was an inseparable part of each day. Sailors hoisted supplies, loaded ammunition, and managed the boat through the intricate network of rivers and canals that comprised the Mekong Delta. Hours could stretch into double shifts, often under the sweltering heat of the tropical sun or the sudden, drenching downpours of monsoon rains. The work was grueling, exhausting both body and mind, but it was performed with the knowledge that any lapse in diligence could endanger the entire crew. From maintaining navigational instruments to cleaning gun barrels, every task reinforced the connection between care, competence, and survival. The monotony of repetitive work was mitigated by the understanding that it had a purpose, that it contributed directly to the security of the waterways and the success of the mission. Adaptation to shipboard life was not limited to physical labor or technical skill. It extended to the social and psychological aspects of life on a small, confined vessel. Space was limited, privacy almost non-existent, and personal routines had to be adjusted to the collective needs of the crew. Meals were communal, sleep was often broken by patrol schedules, and leisure was squeezed into brief moments between duties. Men formed bonds through shared responsibility, relying on one another for both support and survival. Hierarchies and duties were clear, but flexibility and cooperation were equally important, as the unpredictable nature of river patrols demanded that everyone be ready to assume multiple roles at a moment's notice. Sleep and rest were luxuries measured in fragments, and even during downtime, the mind remained alert, scanning for subtle changes in the river, listening for the hum of engines or distant splashes that might signal movement along the banks. Letters from home, magazines, and games provided occasional relief, a brief connection to a world far beyond the delta. Yet the tension of responsibility never fully dissipated. Each sailor carried not only the burden of his own survival, but the collective weight of the crew. knowing that a single mistake could ripple through the operation with serious consequences. In these moments, patience and endurance became as important as skill, and the men learned to pace themselves without ever allowing complacency to take hold. Meals and personal routines were integrated into a rigid schedule that allowed little flexibility. Food was prepared and consumed quickly, often in shifts dictated by patrol rotations. Hygiene and rest were squeezed into short windows between duties, requiring efficiency and discipline. The confined space demanded careful organization, both of living quarters and work areas, and a constant effort to maintain cleanliness and order. Weapons were cleaned, engines checked, and supplies accounted for with meticulous attention, a reflection of the understanding that readiness was inseparable from survival. Every patrol added layers of experience and knowledge. As men became increasingly attuned to the patterns of the river, the behavior of villagers, and the subtle cues that indicated potential threats, they learned to anticipate changes in weather, currents, and tides, as well as the signs of enemy presence. Communication between boats, coordination with helicopters, and observation of the surrounding environment became second nature, a blend of instinct and disciplined procedure honed through repetition and necessity. The cumulative effect of this work was a heightened awareness and adaptability that allowed the crews to navigate the complex and dangerous environment of the Delta with both caution and confidence. Yet despite the hardships, there were moments of quiet reward, fleeting glimpses of life beyond the mission. The sight of a village functioning peacefully, children playing along the riverbank, or successful patrols that disrupted enemy operations offered a tangible sense of purpose. These small victories reinforced the importance of perseverance, discipline, and teamwork, grounding the men in the knowledge that their relentless labor contributed to a larger mission far beyond the confines of the boat. In the end, the life of a patrol sailor was defined by a seamless fusion of endurance, skill, and adaptation. Long hours became a rhythm, grueling labor a discipline, and the tight quarters a crucible for resilience, maintenance, vigilance, and personal sacrifice intertwined to form a daily existence where every action carried weight, where the river dictated both pace and challenge, and where the mastery of equipment, environment, and teamwork became inseparable from the men themselves. The patrols of the Ushanet County were not merely exercises in navigation or combat. They were a testament to human endurance, a story of courage forged in the relentless, unforgiving waterways of the Mekong Delta, and a vivid illustration of the extraordinary demands of service in one of the most challenging theaters of the Vietnam War. The Mekong Delta was not only a battlefield, but also a place where the war's impact touched every aspect of daily life. And in this complex environment, the role of the Navy corpsmen went far beyond treating wounded soldiers. These men, trained in medicine and emergency care, became a lifeline for villagers whose lives were intertwined with the rivers and canals that the patrols navigated. The corpsmen understood that trust and goodwill were as crucial as bullets and patrols. The villagers' perception of the Americans could influence intelligence, cooperation, and even the success of future missions. Their work was a delicate balancing act between compassion and duty, requiring them to navigate cultural differences, language barriers, and the persistent undercurrent of suspicion that came with living in a contested war zone. Every day brought new challenges and opportunities for engagement. The corpsmen set up temporary clinics in village schools, open fields, and sometimes even under makeshift tents along the riverbanks, offering treatment for ailments ranging from malaria and dysentery to injuries caused by labor or accidents. They provided basic vaccination, treated infections, and offered guidance on hygiene and sanitation practices, often teaching villagers methods that could prevent illness in the long term. Their presence was not simply a matter of convenience, but a deliberate effort to build rapport with the local population, demonstrating that these visitors were there not only to enforce security, but also to help protect life and promote well-being. The psychological impact of this medical outreach was profound. Villagers who had endured constant fear, raids, and the threat of ambushes began to see the patrols and their support personnel in a different light. Trust, once fragile, started to grow through repeated interactions where corpsmen treated children, assisted elders, and offered care without discrimination. Families who might have been wary of outsiders were reassured when the same hands that cleaned weapons and maintained patrol boats also applied bandages, dispensed medicine, and offered advice on preventing disease. In many, these acts of service became a bridge, connecting two worlds that the river had so often kept at odds, allowing human relationships to develop amidst the chaos of war. The corpsmen also had to be resourceful, often improvising with limited supplies to meet the pressing needs of villagers. A bottle of iodine, a few bandages, and a measured dose of medicine could transform a serious condition into a manageable one. In some cases, they worked alongside Vietnamese medics or local health aides, combining knowledge and resources to provide care in remote areas. The success of these efforts relied on patience, communication, and cultural sensitivity. Understanding local customs and building rapport were as important as medical skill itself. A kind word, a gentle touch, or simply listening attentively could ease fear and suspicion as effectively as any injection or treatment. The stories that emerged from these interactions were often small but meaningful, reflecting both the human cost of the conflict and the resilience of communities striving to maintain normalcy. A young girl suffering from an untreated infection could return to school after receiving care. A farmer's hand healed enough to continue working in the fields, or a child vaccinated against a deadly disease could safely play along the riverbanks. Each success became a tangible representation of hope, showing that even amid uncertainty and danger, lives could be preserved and communities strengthened. These moments also reinforced the purpose of the patrols themselves. Security was not only about controlling waterways but also about creating conditions where life could continue, commerce could thrive, and families could feel safe. Medical missions were often intertwined with broader patrol operations, and corpsmen had to maintain awareness of the same threats that challenged the boat crews. Hidden weapons, ambush points, and guerrilla tactics meant that even providing aid required caution and coordination. Yet the men adapted, learning to perform their duties efficiently while remaining vigilant, ensuring that the safety of both the crew and the villagers was never compromised. Their ability to function under pressure, often in isolated and unpredictable settings, highlighted the dual nature of their service, simultaneously warriors and healers, protectors of both security and health. Beyond immediate medical care, corpsmen also contributed to a longer-term sense of stability within villages. By offering training in sanitation, hygiene, and disease prevention, they empowered villagers with knowledge that could reduce future risks. In some areas, they advised on clean water storage, proper disposal of waste, and basic nutrition, all of which had a lasting impact on health outcomes. These efforts reinforced the idea that the U.S. presence, though primarily military, could also serve as a catalyst for community resilience, bridging the gap between security operations and human development. Interactions between corpsmen and villagers often became deeply personal, forming bonds that transcended language and cultural barriers. A hand extended to treat a child, a moment spent listening to a mother's concerns, or guidance offered to an elder in need fostered a sense of mutual respect and understanding. Over time, villagers began to view the patrols not only as a military presence, but also as a source of support and protection, an essential factor in intelligence gathering and in creating an environment where cooperation was possible. This trust was invaluable. It meant that when the patrol boats returned day after day, men were not greeted with suspicion but with cautious acceptance, a recognition of the care that had been consistently shown. In many, the corpsman's work highlighted the multifaceted nature of warfare in the Mekong Delta. Combat and confrontation were only one dimension. Equally critical were the efforts to win hearts and minds, to stabilize communities, and to foster conditions where security and normalcy could coexist. By providing medical aid, promoting health, and demonstrating care for the population, the corpsmen reinforced the broader mission of the patrols, showing that true security extended beyond the suppression of enemy forces to include the protection and empowerment of the people who lived along the rivers they patrolled. Their legacy is a testament to the enduring power of compassion, professionalism, and humanity amidst the relentless challenges of war, a reminder that even in the most hostile environments, acts of care can create lasting bridges between strangers and communities. As the patrol boats of the Ushanet County navigated the intricate waterways of the Mekong Delta, every mission demanded a combination of careful planning, coordination, and sheer courage. These missions were not isolated excursions. They were orchestrated operations involving multiple units, intelligence sources, and aerial support. Helicopters hovered overhead, ready to provide reconnaissance, deliver rapid firepower, or extract wounded personnel at a moment's notice. On the water, the patrol boats carried out their duties with precision, relying on both the skills of the crew and the intelligence gathered from locals. Reconnaissance flights and prior patrols. The goal was clear: locate and neutralize Viet Cong positions before they could mount ambushes, disrupt local security, or transport weapons along the rivers and canals that were the lifeblood of the Delta. The process of coordinating these operations was a study in complexity and timing. Intelligence often arrived in fragments, consisting of local tips, intercepted communications, or observations made during previous patrols. Corpsmen and sailors alike learned to read these signs carefully, understanding that a misinterpretation could mean encountering enemy forces under the worst possible conditions. Helicopters and boats worked in tandem, the pilots scanning treetops, riverbanks, and hidden inlets for signs of enemy activity, while patrol crews listened for subtle clues: a canoe moving suspiciously along a canal, footprints leading into dense mangroves, or the faint glint of a hidden weapon. Every detail mattered, and the success of a mission depended on the ability to synthesize scattered information into a coherent strategy. Despite meticulous planning, patrols often encountered unexpected resistance. The Viet Cong were masters of guerrilla tactics, using ambushes, snipers, and improvised traps to challenge every operation. A seemingly peaceful stretch of river could erupt in chaos in an instant. The sharp crack of a sniper's rifle, the sudden detonation of a concealed explosive, or the coordinated volley from hidden bunkers forced the patrol crews to react quickly under extreme pressure. The narrowness of the canals and the dense vegetation lining the banks amplified the danger, limiting maneuverability and leaving boats vulnerable to attack from multiple directions. Sailors and Marines had to remain vigilant at all times, ready to fight, take evasive action, or call for aerial support at a moment's notice. In many, these engagements were psychological as much as they were physical. The knowledge that the enemy could strike from anywhere, often disguised among civilians or hidden in the terrain, meant that patience and mental resilience were as essential as marksmanship and technical skill. Every interaction with villagers, every examination of a small boat, and every minute spent scanning the shoreline contributed to the awareness needed to anticipate ambushes before they could unfold. Crews developed an almost instinctive sense of timing and placement, honed through experience and reinforced by the constant unpredictability of the Delta's environment. The river was a living, changing entity, and understanding its rhythms could mean the difference between survival and catastrophe. Helicopter support added a crucial dimension to these operations. Pilots worked closely with the patrol crews, maintaining a careful balance between reconnaissance and direct engagement. From above, they could spot enemy positions obscured by the dense mangrove canopy, relay coordinates to boats, and, if necessary, unleash precision fire to suppress or eliminate threats. The presence of helicopters also provided a psychological advantage, signaling to both villagers and the Viet Cong that patrols were not isolated and that rapid reinforcement could arrive from above. However, this support was never absolute. Weather, terrain, and the constant threat of anti-aircraft fire meant that helicopters had to operate with caution, their effectiveness dependent on communication, coordination, and timing with the patrol boats below. The tactics employed during these operations evolved with each engagement. Boats would often act as decoys, drawing fire or forcing the Viet Cong to reveal their positions, while helicopters observed and coordinated countermeasures. Intelligence reports guided the deployment of resources, suggesting where ambushes might be set or where hidden catches could be located. Crews learned to anticipate movement, predicting how the enemy might use the river to their advantage and countering with a mix of speed, firepower, and strategic positioning. Each patrol was both a test of skill and a lesson in adaptability, teaching crews to think several steps ahead while responding to immediate threats. Real-life encounters highlighted the peril and intensity of these operations. On one occasion, a patrol boat moving through a narrow canal drew the attention of hidden Viet Cong snipers, forcing the crew to return fire while maneuvering under fire and coordinating with a helicopter overhead. The sniper's position was eventually neutralized, but not without demonstrating the constant tension and split-second decision-making that defined river patrols. In another instance, intelligence from local villagers led to the discovery of a hidden weapons cache along a riverbank, and a combined operation involving both boats and helicopters successfully removed the threat before it could be deployed against civilians or troops. These stories, repeated across countless patrols, underscored the delicate balance between aggression, caution, and precision necessary to achieve mission objectives. Yet the human element remained central to every operation. Crew members had to trust one another implicitly, understanding that any lapse in attention could endanger the entire team. Coordination between boats and helicopters required not only technical skill but clear communication, mutual understanding, and rapid adaptability. Each patrol had the ability to anticipate and respond to multiple contingencies, building a repertoire of tactics that combined intelligence, training, and experience. Over time, these operations became a continuous cycle of observation, engagement, and adaptation, each successful patrol reinforcing the knowledge and resilience required for the next. In addition to combat, these coordinated patrols had a profound impact on the broader mission of securing the Mekong Delta. By flushing out Viet Cong positions, patrols disrupted supply lines, reduced the frequency of ambushes on civilian traffic, and reinforced the presence of Allied forces in areas that had previously been dominated by enemy forces. The combination of intelligence-driven planning, helicopter support, and vigilant boat crews created a dynamic strategy that not only targeted immediate threats but also helped shape the environment to favor security and stability. Each operation contributed to the slow but steady process of asserting control over the waterways, protecting villagers, and limiting the influence of the Viet Cong through the intricate coordination of patrol boats, helicopters, and intelligence networks. The men of the Us-Harnett County engaged in a continuous struggle against a cunning and adaptable enemy. Ambushes and sniper fire were ever-present threats, but through experience, skill, and teamwork, patrols achieved successes that reinforced security, built trust with local communities, and advanced the broader mission of stabilizing the delta. These operations revealed the high stakes of river warfare, demonstrating that every mile of patrolled water was contested, every engagement a test of courage, and every coordination effort a vital component in the ongoing fight to secure one of the most challenging theaters of the Vietnam War. By the mid-1960s, the character of the conflict in Vietnam had undergone a dramatic shift. As the arrival of larger U.S. forces intensified the scale and complexity of operations across the country. Initially, American involvement had been largely advisory, providing support to South Vietnamese troops in counterinsurgency and reconnaissance missions. But the increasing infiltration of North Vietnamese Army units forced a more direct role. The Mekong Delta, with its dense network of rivers, canals, and mangrove forests, became a focal point where the interplay between conventional military forces and guerrilla tactics highlighted the evolving nature of warfare. For the crews of the U.S. Harnett County and other riverine units, this escalation meant more frequent patrols, heightened alertness, and the constant presence of a formidable enemy who adapted rapidly to every tactic employed. The influx of additional combat troops brought both strategic advantages and operational challenges. On the one hand, American units were able to conduct larger, coordinated operations with greater firepower and technological support, including artillery, helicopters, and surveillance assets that extended the reach of patrols and reduced the ability of the Viet Cong to operate unchallenged along vital waterways. On the other hand, the increased footprint of foreign forces complicated relationships with local populations and required careful coordination to avoid disruption to village life while still applying pressure on enemy positions. The delicate balance between demonstrating strength and building trust became more pronounced, demanding that patrol crews and support units, including corpsmen, navigate not only tactical threats but also the socio-political terrain of the Delta communities. It was within this context that the concept of Vietnamization began to take shape, representing a pivotal shift in the war's strategy. The term referred to the gradual transfer of security responsibilities from U.S. forces to the increasingly capable South Vietnamese armed forces. This transition was not merely a logistical reassignment. It involved intensive training programs, operational mentoring, and the cultivation of leadership among South Vietnamese units so that they could independently manage local security, defend communities, and engage effectively with the enemy. The river patrols, which had operated under American oversight, became a living classroom where South Vietnamese sailors, Marines, and support personnel could observe tactics, participate in joint operations, and develop the confidence and expertise required to assume primary responsibility for securing their own territory. The process of Vietnamization was incremental, with responsibilities handed over in stages as local forces demonstrated readiness. Early operations focused on joint patrols, where American crews led missions while Vietnamese troops learned to anticipate enemy movements, coordinate with aerial support, and maintain the vessels themselves. These exercises were rigorous, often involving long hours on treacherous waterways, simulated ambushes, and real engagements with Viet Cong units. Over time, South Vietnamese units gradually took the lead, conducting patrols independently while American personnel provided advisory support from nearby command centers or via rapid response reserves. This phased approach allowed for knowledge transfer, reinforced operational discipline, and built the resilience necessary for sustained security operations in a highly contested environment. The intensification of combat during this period also highlighted the adaptability of both sides. The Viet Cong responded to the presence of larger U.S. forces by consolidating their units, employing more sophisticated ambushes and exploiting the complex terrain to their advantage. North Vietnamese army units introduced conventional tactics alongside guerrilla operations, creating a multifaceted threat that demanded careful coordination and strategic planning. River patrols, therefore, were not isolated endeavors but integral components of a broader military framework that combined intelligence gathering, rapid response mobility, and close integration with allied units. Each patrol was a critical test of skill, endurance, and strategic thinking, demonstrating the high stakes of maintaining security along the waterways that connected villages, towns, and supply routes throughout the Delta. Amid these operational pressures, the human dimension remained central to Vietnamization's success. South Vietnamese troops, many of whom had grown up along these waterways, possessed invaluable local knowledge, familiarity with seasonal river patterns, and an understanding of the socio-cultural landscape. American advisors worked to harness this expertise, blending it with technical training, tactical planning, and logistical support. The result was a more capable force, one able to patrol complex river networks, identify and neutralize enemy positions, and maintain a presence that deterred Viet Cong operations. This empowerment of local forces not only strengthened immediate security, but also laid the foundation for longer-term stability, signaling a transition towards self-sufficiency in defense and governance. The river patrols themselves became a visible symbol of this strategic evolution. Missions now involved mixed crews, with American and South Vietnamese personnel sharing responsibilities and learning from one another. Coordinated operations extended to joint planning sessions, reconnaissance assignments, and combined maneuvers with helicopters providing aerial oversight. The practical challenges of navigating narrow, muddy canals, anticipating ambushes, and managing limited resources became training opportunities that tested leadership, decision-making, and teamwork under conditions of extreme stress. For many South Vietnamese sailors, the experience instilled confidence, discipline, and the ability to respond effectively to threats, forming the backbone of the newly empowered riverine units. The broader implications of Vietnamization extended beyond military operations. As South Vietnamese forces assumed responsibility for local security, communities experienced a gradual restoration of autonomy and stability. Villages once vulnerable to extortion, ambush, and disruption began to see the benefits of organized protection, enabling economic activity, agriculture, and commerce to resume with reduced interference. American advisors emphasized that security was foundational. Without it, developmental programs, education, and infrastructure improvements could not take root. The interplay of patrol operations, community engagement, and intelligence collection created a framework in which military actions directly supported civilian life, highlighting the integrated approach required to consolidate peace and maintain order. This period of transition also demanded flexibility in leadership and adaptability in tactics. Commanders had to coordinate multiple moving parts, training schedules, joint missions, intelligence flows, and operational contingencies while maintaining morale among troops facing constant risk. The experience of river patrols illustrated the challenges and rewards of this approach. Success was measured not solely in enemy casualties, but in the capacity of South Vietnamese forces to take independent action, sustain security over extended areas, and build a lasting presence that could protect civilians and infrastructure alike. Each operation reinforced lessons learned, improved coordination, and strengthened the confidence of the forces now responsible for their homeland. In retrospect, the arrival of larger use, forces and the implementation of Vietnamization marked a turning point in the Vietnam War's dynamic. The increased combat intensity underscored the stakes and demanded heightened skill and resilience from both American and South Vietnamese personnel. At the same time, the strategic transfer of responsibilities signaled a commitment to empowering local forces, fostering autonomy, and ensuring that security could be maintained by those who knew the land, people, and rivers best. River patrols, once dominated by American crews, became a stage for practical training, joint engagement, and the demonstration of local capability, illustrating that the evolution of warfare in the Mekong Delta was as much about cultivating human potential as it was about controlling waterways. This period stands as a testament to the complexities of war, the importance of adaptive strategy, and the enduring significance of preparing local forces to assume responsibility for their own defense and the protection of their communities. As the rivers and canals of the Mekong Delta gradually became more secure under the combined efforts of American and South Vietnamese forces, the focus of operations began to expand beyond immediate military concerns to encompass the broader task of stabilizing and rebuilding communities. The concept of pacification emerged as a central pillar in this process, linking military security to social, economic, and political development in a way that recognized the interdependence of safety and prosperity. Patrol boats and helicopters had disrupted Viet Cong supply lines, and the presence of local security forces provided protection. But lasting change required engaging directly with the people who called these villages and hamlets home. It was here, in the interplay between security, governance, and development, that the quiet yet vital work of rebuilding took shape. Village councils became the cornerstone of this effort, offering local populations a voice in governance and a framework for managing resources and addressing community needs. Newly elected hamlet leaders were trained at facilities such as the National Cager Training Center, learning how to organize local committees, prioritize projects, and navigate the bureaucratic and logistical challenges of implementing community improvements. These councils enabled villagers to identify critical needs from schools and medical clinics to irrigation systems and market access, and to take an active role in creating solutions. By involving local people directly in decision-making, these programs fostered a sense of ownership and responsibility, reinforcing the broader security established by the river patrols and South Vietnamese forces. Economic initiatives were equally transformative. Rural credit loans allowed groups of farmers to pool resources and acquire machinery that increased productivity and efficiency, enabling them to cultivate their land more effectively than ever before. Fishermen were able to replace fragile fiber nets with durable nylon equipment, enhancing both their yield and their ability to sustain livelihoods. The combined impact of these programs went beyond individual prosperity. Communities became more resilient, self-sufficient, and less dependent on outside aid, creating an environment where the threat of Viet Cong influence was diminished. With security measures in place, these economic interventions could take root and flourish, demonstrating the powerful synergy between military and civic efforts. Infrastructure development played a complementary role in stabilizing the delta. Roads, bridges, and schools began to appear in areas that had previously been isolated, reducing vulnerability to insurgent attacks and providing villagers with access to essential services. The construction of roads, for instance, not only facilitated commerce and transportation, but also allowed security forces to respond more rapidly to threats, further reinforcing local safety. Schools and clinics offered education and health care, while simultaneously serving as symbols of progress and stability. The visibility of these projects helped build confidence in local governance and the broader national government, illustrating that security, economic growth, and civic development were interconnected elements of a comprehensive strategy to win hearts and minds. Programs like Chia added a unique and strategic dimension to these efforts by offering genuine amnesty to Viet Cong or North Vietnamese army members willing to leave the conflict and reintegrate into civilian life. This initiative required careful coordination and trust building, ensuring that returnees were welcomed as full members of society, eligible to vote, serve in local forces, and contribute to the defense and governance of their communities. Some returnees even participated in outreach programs, sharing their experiences with current insurgents to persuade them to lay down arms. The success of Chia Hai depended on both security and the perception of fairness and opportunity, demonstrating how political and social programs could reinforce military objectives and foster long-term stability. The combination of village councils, rural loans, infrastructure development, and reintegration programs created a multifaceted approach to community stabilization that extended far beyond conventional combat operations. Patrol boats and helicopters had secured waterways. South Vietnamese forces had assumed primary responsibility for security, and American advisors had provided guidance. But the real measure of success was in the thriving, self-sufficient communities emerging along the Delta. Villagers were able to farm without fear, trade goods along secure roads and canals, and participate in governance that reflected their needs and priorities. Education and healthcare programs enhanced quality of life, while development projects created tangible symbols of progress and hope. Together, these initiatives helped shift the balance of power, making it increasingly difficult for the Viet Cong to operate effectively in areas now secured and stabilized by local forces. In practice, the interplay between military operations and civic programs required constant coordination and flexibility. Patrols, while focused on neutralizing immediate threats, also acted as the eyes and ears of broader development efforts, observing local conditions, gathering intelligence, and facilitating communication between villages and higher authorities. Security provided by patrols and local forces allowed construction crews to build bridges and roads without fear of sabotage, while economic programs depended on safe transportation routes to function effectively. Education and health initiatives, too, relied on stability to reach their full potential, demonstrating that every element of pacification was interdependent. The result was a delicate but effective ecosystem in which security, governance, and development reinforced one another. Personal stories from this period highlight the transformative impact of these programs. Farmers who once struggled to cultivate their fields due to isolation and insecurity found that access to credit and machinery allowed them to expand production and improve yields. Villagers who had feared travel to markets along contested canals could now transport goods safely thanks to patrols and secured roads. Returnees from the Chia Hloi program, initially viewed with suspicion, gradually became valued members of the community, participating in local defense and contributing to civic projects. Each success reinforced the notion that stability and prosperity were achievable, even in a landscape long marred by conflict. Education and health initiatives also created lasting change. Clinics established with the support of corpsmen and local authorities treated everything from common illnesses to injuries sustained in combat, fostering trust and goodwill between communities and security forces. Schools allowed children to pursue knowledge despite the hardships of war, helping to build a foundation for future leadership and civic participation. In combination with infrastructure and economic programs, these efforts created an environment where villages could grow resilient, adaptive, and invested in their own survival and prosperity through the coordinated interplay of governance. Economic development, infrastructure, and reintegration programs. The Mekong Delta began to see a tangible transformation. Security established by patrols and local forces enabled progress in other spheres, demonstrating the inseparability of military and civilian objectives in achieving long-term stability. The work of village councils, Rural loans, construction projects, and initiatives like Chechi Yahaya exemplified a comprehensive strategy that addressed both immediate threats and the underlying conditions that allowed insurgent influence to persist. Together, these programs created a foundation upon which communities could rebuild, thrive, and envision a future defined less by conflict and more by opportunity, resilience, and hope. As the sun dipped below the horizon over the Mekong Delta, painting the waterways with streaks of amber and crimson, it became clear that the war along these rivers was as much a battle for hearts and minds as it was a test of arms and tactics. River patrols, often overlooked in broader histories of the Vietnam War, had been indispensable in shaping both military outcomes and civilian security. Each day, the sailors and South Vietnamese personnel who braved the treacherous currents and mangrove-lined canals faced not only the threat of hidden ambushes and sniper fire, but also the immense responsibility of protecting the people whose livelihoods depended on these waterways. Their work demanded a combination of courage, endurance, tactical skill, and an acute awareness of the human terrain, making every mission a delicate balance between aggression, caution, and empathy. The patrol crew's vigilance was ceaseless. Hours spent navigating narrow canals were punctuated by the constant hum of diesel engines and the rhythmic lapping of water against hulls. Yet beneath this monotony lay an ever-present tension. They scrutinized every boat, every passerby, and every shadow along the riverbank, knowing that the Viet Cong's guerrilla tactics often relied on surprise, deception, and the exploitation of local geography. A seemingly innocent fisherman could conceal a hidden weapon. A schoolchild's errand might mask the transport of arms. And even the most routine supply convoy could hide threats that required split-second decisions to avoid disaster. This environment tested not only technical skill but also mental endurance, demanding that patrol crews remain alert, adaptable, and composed in the face of constant uncertainty. Coordination with helicopters and intelligence units further underscored the complexity of riverine operations. Aerial reconnaissance provided crucial information on enemy positions and movements, but successful integration required clear communication, precise timing, and mutual trust between ground and air forces. The smallest lapse a delayed signal, a misinterpreted report could have devastating consequences. River patrols were therefore exercises in teamwork at the highest level, blending the expertise of multiple units and ensuring that each maneuver, each patrol route, and each engagement served the dual purpose of neutralizing the enemy while safeguarding civilian communities. It was in this synergy that the patrol's true strength was revealed, as the combination of local knowledge, military training, and technological support created a network of protection that extended far beyond the reach of any single vessel or squadron. Yet the impact of river patrols extended beyond military effectiveness. The presence of secure waterways allowed villages and towns to function with a degree of normalcy previously unattainable. Farmers could transport rice to market without fear of confiscation. Children could attend school safely, and local councils could plan and implement infrastructure projects that improved living conditions. Programs such as rural credit loans, road and bridge construction, and healthcare initiatives flourished under the protective umbrella of patrolling forces. The corpsmen who accompanied these missions provided medical aid to villagers, cultivating trust and goodwill while reinforcing the broader objective of security. Every patrol, therefore, was not only a military maneuver but also a statement of support for civilian resilience. Tangible example that stability and progress were possible even amid conflict. The concept of Vietnamization, which transferred primary security responsibilities to South Vietnamese forces, demonstrated the enduring legacy of these riverine operations. By training local troops to assume leadership, patrols fostered confidence, competence, and autonomy, ensuring that the communities they protected could eventually maintain their own safety. American advisors and crews acted as guides, mentors, and partners in this transition, blending combat operations with hands-on instruction and collaborative problem-solving. The result was a force capable of independent patrols, rapid response, and effective engagement with the Viet Cong, embodying the principle that sustainable security relies on the empowerment of those who know the land and its people best. Stories from these operations illustrate the human dimension of this endeavor. Sailors recount nights spent navigating canals under heavy rain, coordinating with helicopters to intercept enemy movements, and sharing scarce supplies with local villagers who had endured years of hardship. South Vietnamese forces speak of their growing confidence as they took the lead in patrols, learning to anticipate ambushes, manage equipment, and maintain morale under difficult conditions. Villagers remember the relief of seeing armed patrols along their waterways, the reassurance of medical aid and educational support, and the gradual return of economic activity that enabled them to rebuild lives disrupted by conflict. Together, these narratives underscore the multifaceted nature of river patrols, combining bravery, technical skill, social engagement, and strategic vision into a single, cohesive mission. Ultimately, the success of river patrols lay in their ability to intertwine military objectives with the well-being of the civilian population. Each patrol was a testament to the resilience of those who served, the cooperation of local communities, and the intricate planning that made security operations effective in a challenging environment. The rivers of the Mekong Delta, once avenues for insurgent movement and fear, became pathways of protection, commerce, and hope, illustrating the profound impact of sustained vigilance and strategic foresight. It was this combination of courage, endurance, tactical skill, and cooperation that defined riverine warfare, leaving a legacy not only of military achievement but also of community resilience and the potential for lasting stability. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through history, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories from the past. Your support helps us continue sharing these incredible accounts. From the rivers of Vietnam to the hearts of viewers like you, may the lessons of courage and perseverance inspire us all. Good night, and sleep well.